The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual guests. If you're a sensitive snowflake that may get easily offended, then turn this off immediately. If you want to hear the real truth about the gun culture, then stick around. This is the Armed Citizen Podcast.
What's going on, my Ghost Squad? Welcome to a special edition of the Armed Citizen Podcast. Tonight, we're going to be doing a live watch party of the vice presidential debate between Vice President Pence and Senator Harris. And so we're going to have fun. We start this obviously a few minutes early so we can actually start when it goes live. We've got the screen share up there. I'll have the volume on, the audio on when it does start. So the biggest thing I want to say is let's have fun tonight. Let's voice our opinions. Let's not get too crazy and start going a direction that may not be a good one. So all my mods out there, if you are out there, if you see someone getting maybe a little out of hand, send a warning shot across their bow. And after the warning shot the second time, go ahead and pull the plug. But let's try to keep it civil out there, but let's have fun and let's voice your opinions. Obviously, you can text any questions in. You can post them out there, comments and questions up there. I'll try to answer them if I have any questions or if you want my opinion or something or whatever. I've got a few invites out there, so if they stop in, they stop in. If not, then if anyone out there would like to jump in, I'll put the link out there, and in a few minutes we'll see who joins and who doesn't. So so what's up, Crumpy? Crumpy's out there. Defense Dad budget's at work, but he said that he'll be listening. I think Ozzy's at work as well. Let's see here. Thunder's out there. How you doing, buddy? Like I said, I thought it'd be interesting to do this as a watch party and we can have a discussion while it's going on, all that stuff. So obviously we can see right now. Let me know if you can see the screen share of the debate. I don't know if you can or not. I'm assuming you can, but let me know if you can see everything okay and all that jazz. Like I said, I will turn the volume up when it does start, but hey, Keith, how you doing, bud? But let me know if you guys, I'm assuming you can see the screen share. I don't know. Okay, good. If you can, great. So like I said, I've got some links out there to some people that might jump in and help do this. And but if they don't here in a little bit, then I will allow anyone who wants to jump in, and I'll throw the link out in the chat and let you in, and we can have a cool discussion. But like I said, I want to come on a few minutes early before it actually starts to do the introductions, do all of that stuff. And we're going to wait a few minutes. We're only a couple minutes away probably from the start of it. As you can see, we're watching the Fox News feed over on YouTube. And so, I was going to do PBS. I was going to do different things, but Jason says, thanks for doing this, much better than watching. That's my whole thing is I felt like if I was just watching it on TV or my phone or whatever, I'd just be upset and or maybe possibly just get bored and turn it off. But I feel like this way we can all watch it together and at least have a discussion. How about that? So Crump said that he filed an FEC complaint against Facebook and Harris. There you go. Do what you got to do. And like I said, once we see them walk on stage and we know this is starting up, I'll flip the volume on and we can go from there. So how's everyone doing today? I hope everyone's doing great. I hope I had a great day. It was a beautiful day here in North Central Arkansas. Hey, Ro, what's up, man? Like I said, Ro, I was telling everybody I've got some links out there. If they don't show up and I've got some space on the panel, I'll put the link out there in the chat, and you guys can join the panel if you want to here. And once it starts and all that, we'll we'll see who jumps in. But Patriot, what's up, buddy? Buck, how's going on, man? Rose says have no cable. I got rid of cable in 2018. So now I've got Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime Video and all sorts of stuff that I can watch live TV on. I think Hulu is what it is. And then through my AT&T, I've got AT&T Watch where I can watch live TV on certain channels. But we got rid of cable or satellite actually back a couple years ago, and it was probably the best thing we ever did because we really didn't watch it a whole lot except for a few channels anyways. And I can get those through all that. So let's go see. I am not really sure. Here we go.
Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm Susan Page of USA Today. It is my honor to moderate.
Let me know if you guys can hear the audio of the
democracy.
debate, the moderator,
In
or whoever
Kingsbury
she is.
Hall tonight, we have a small and socially distant audience, and we've taken extra precautions during this pandemic. Among other things, everyone in the audience is required to wear a face mask,
hear her
and
speaking?
the candidates will be seated 12 feet apart. The audience is enthusiastic about their candidates,
What's up,
but
Budget?
they've agreed to express that
Hey, how's it going?
twice. At the
No,
end
I'm
of
gonna
the
go ahead and
debate.
mute this
And
again
now-
while she's doing all this. And when I see them walk on stage is when I'll bring it back.
Just remember,
You're not
I'm
gonna
at
get-
work. If I suddenly drop off, I'm being
At
called
work,
away.
are you? Yeah,
Yes,
that's not
I
a
am.
problem. Okay, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the
My
volume
boss
back.
ain't watching this.
So here we go. Let the games begin.
Thank you.
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to undergo treatment in Washington after testing positive for COVID-19. We send our thoughts and prayers to them for their rapid and complete recovery and for the recovery of everyone afflicted by the coronavirus. The two campaigns and the Commission on Presidential Debates have agreed to the ground rules for tonight. I'm here to enforce them on behalf of the millions of Americans who are watching. One note, no one in either campaign or at the commission or anywhere else has been told in advance what topics I'll raise or what questions I'll ask. This 90-minute debate will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you, sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate.
I'm going to
Then
interrupt
we'll
plenty,
take
I
6
think.
minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point,
Yeah, I
although
suspect they'll be interrupting.
more, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country so much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots?
Why don't you let her the
A federal
question
mandate
answer the
to wear
question
masks?
herself instead of giving
You
her
have 2
multiple
minutes to
choice?
respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, The vice president and the president were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people, and that it would be contracted because it is airborne.
And then when they tried to close the border, you called them racists.
We didn't
Yep.
tell you.
And she just mentioned
Can you
airborne
imagine
twice, and
if
so
you
is the
knew on
flu. The
January
flu
28th,
have all those
as opposed
symptoms
to
as
March
well.
13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare, they knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it. The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today they still don't have a plan.
What's your
They
plan?
still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does.
No, he doesn't.
And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all. That is
In
the
other
plan.
words, clamp down on all civil
Knowing
liberties
that-
and impose your version of America with
And we need
the pandemic as a pretext.
Joe Biden is the best
Yep,
leader to
they
do
will
that, and
tax the
frankly,
hell
this
out of you for the
administration has
free
forfeited
vaccine.
Thank you,
their
Senator.
right to reelection
Oh, yeah.
based on
Thank you,
Ain't no
Senator
such thing
Harris.
as a free lunch.
Vice President Pence, more than 110,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force.
No one
Why
goes
is
to
the
Canada.
U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population
Pull the words out of my mouth.
at almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. Our nation has gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done to date. We were able to see to the delivery of billions of supplies so our doctors and nurses had the resources support they needed. And we began really before the month of February was out to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics that have been saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses of a vaccine before the end of this year. The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. And quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
At least he wasn't milquetoast. He went right after Biden. That's cool.
Exactly.
The administration has done. Clearly, it hasn't worked. When you're looking at over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force and knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed,
That's a good one, Buck.
the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get
but Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I want to
have
add,
to weigh
but
in here.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh in.
speaking.
You
So
can have
I
15 more
wanna-
seconds, and then we'll give the vice president a
Thank you.
chance to.
Just
I wanna
mute
ask
her
the American
microphone.
people,
Let her talk,
how
but mute her
calm were you when
microphone.
you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't
Mute
see your
her,
parents
mute her,
because
mute
you were
her,
afraid they
mute
could
her.
kill them?
Let's
How
give
calm
Vice
were you when you slept your way into office?
President 1 minute to
You know,
respond.
there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made.
I'm referring
The
to you,
reality,
the
if I may finish, Senator, the reality is Dr. Fauci said everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President Trump, I will tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people, and he always spoke with confidence that we'd get through this together. But when you say it hasn't worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. But that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us, if we
President
did
Pence.
everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice
Now,
President
one
Pence,
life lost is too
Thank you.
many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve credit for the sacrifices that they have made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders.
President Pence.
And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people have done.
Vice President Pence, you were your administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. And President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened this summer, again, Americans stepped forward. But the reality is the work of the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney
Yes,
Barrett.
thank you. Thank you, Vice
But at
President Pence.
that, if I may say, that Rose Garden event, there's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested
Yes.
for coronavirus. And it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care,
Thank you. Thank
the
you, Vice
Green New
President Pence.
Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Let's talk about respecting the American people. You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always
leader,
done.
speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker, knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people. So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan, we talked
No,
about
Vice
It is
President
asking too much of the people.
But-
That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect
Susan,
their
the
parents
President-
and
No,
their
I'm sorry.
children.
Kamala Harris, Senator Harris, I'm sorry.
It's fine, I'm Kamala.
No, you're Senator Harris to me. For life to get back to normal, Dr. Anthony Fauci and other experts say that most of the people who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the president's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance.
It's kind of childish. Donald Trump says take it, I won't take it.
That's
Yeah,
our
she
second
means
conference
President
tonight,
Trump, doesn't she?
The role of the vice president.
Senator.
No,
We
she
will make-
could,
on
but she
January
don't.
20. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on
Well,
to the
thank
issue
you,
of
but I would like to
vice
go back
presidency.
because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year. We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the Trump administration, I think is unconscionable. And Senator, I just ask you, stop playing politics with people's lives.
Right
The reality
on.
is
Well
that
done.
we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the
That's
end of this
big
year.
right there.
And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is just, it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States.
Oh, wait, who was
Thankfully,
president?
ended
Oh,
up
yeah.
not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we
Thank you,
still
Vice
learned
President
from it.
Pence.
And I think
Vice
the
President
American
Pence, your time
people,
is
I'm going
up.
to say again, can be proud
Vice President Pence, I'm sorry,
of
your
what
time
we
is
have
up.
done. And Senator, please
Thank you, Vice
stop
President.
undermining confidence in the
He
vaccine.
didn't give a damn
Senator
about what
Harris,
she's
let me
saying.
ask you the same question that I asked
Sure.
Vice
Yeah,
President.
I was just thinking, it's like, yeah, good luck, lady.
An agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2
I
minutes.
gotta give the moderator one thing. At least she's asking the same questions.
A call from
Yeah, exactly.
Joe Biden. It was actually
I
it was
thought for sure she wasn't gonna ask her this one.
and to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25.
I think that it's very telling that when asked the question about presidential succession in the case of presidential disability, that she starts talking about herself.
Uh-huh. Because she knows.
Joe and I were
But she knows
raised.
damn well that it'll happen, and she'll be the threat by default.
That's why she's on the ticket. They hate each other.
The value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected
By
the
putting
first.
thousands of black men in jail.
and Black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest.
Stupid ass drug crimes. Oh, and telling a single mother, well, actually laughing in her face about it, that she put her in jail and no one would have her kid.
Organizations, to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners, to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second Black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence
Sorry, you're not Black. You're Jamaican and Indian.
Nation about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world.
Black.
I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose, which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
Thank you, Senator Harris. You know, neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know? Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Well, Susan, thank you. And let me say on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the President received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue. The American people have a right to know about the health and well-being of their president, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
I never expected
Pence is being classy tonight. I don't know if he might need to be a little bit more aggressive, but he's being really classy tonight.
We've got an election.
Yeah, he is, but I think he should be a bit more aggressive. I'm tired of these Republican politicians who want to have a nice guy.
Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents? Especially,
let's see how she tiptoes around dementia.
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast,
Pence set a trap there.
Not.
Yes, he did.
Both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750.
She wasn't going to take the bait. She's smart. Let's give her that. She is smart.
I literally said, "You mean
$750?" Could have gone very badly right there.
And it was
but
like,
he is too, because he set a trap.
Donald Trump
smiling ear to ear and making it look like he was just a genuine concern.
And let her answer it.
And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody.
Welcome to political theater.
Who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know what is influencing the president's decisions. And is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you?
Or the vice president's son?
Susan, I'm glad you asked.
Let's think about that,
because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly over many years.
I don't think Joe's actually making decisions. Someone else will be making decisions for him. The only decision he makes is who to sniff that day.
Has been about covering up.
The chief of staff could be running that presidency.
I want to give you a chance to respond, Vice President.
Well, look, I respect the fact that
Kamala will.
47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Thank you.
The American people was a businessman. He's a job creator who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review just as the law allows. But The distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice
And
President.
turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation,
Thank you,
unleashing
Vice
American
President
energy,
Pence.
fighting for free and fair trade, and all of that's
Thank you,
on the
Vice
line
President
if
Pence.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a
in
good
the White House.
segue into our third
great
topic,
segue.
which is about the economy. This has
How
been
does
another.
Harris
aspect
know it's a
of
great
life for
segue?
Americans
Unless she
so
knows the questions.
affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled. And that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, Blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk? And you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the
Yeah,
economy,
that's what they want.
there's be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health and the strength of the American worker and the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember
So
hearing
he'll
about
take from them and give it to you.
in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in energy, in renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science and invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And
it's not free. Someone is going to pay for it.
That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country, as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you,
Hey,
Senator
Gary.
Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. It's when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of 4 had $2,000 in savings and taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of 4 increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes.
Well done.
It's really remarkable to think. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States to give direct payments to families, save 50 million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We literally have spared no expense to help the American people and the American worker through this. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I thought we saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cut.
Mr. Vice President.
Yes, you did.
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break.
He just said, "Fuck you."
That is absolutely not true. That
is he only cutting? Is he only?
You just said that day one he was going to repeal the tax cuts.
We can then have a conversation. Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah, she screwed herself with the attitude.
On anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden,
bullshit,
during the Great Recession, was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back. And now the Trump-Pence administration wants to take credit when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for the economy that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster.
Of course it is.
But Joe Biden, on the one
which is what you wanted.
On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act.
You know, I got to think anybody that might be alive today that lived through the Great Depression would probably agree with that.
I would say so, yes.
It saved those families who otherwise were going bankrupt because of hospital bills they could not afford. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which means that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And
she's not pushing her on time near as much as she's
Nope, not even close.
I'd just like, he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition,
attitude.
Shut up and go the line.
Oh yeah, I was saying her attitude is going to piss off a lot of people tonight.
Thank you,
they're
Senator
coming
Harris.
for you.
Yeah.
If you are under the age of 20, coverage.
Cross is a bitch.
I'm not going to say it,
Let me give you
but
a
it's
chance.
time to punt.
Well, we have a chance to talk about health care.
Yeah, she's coming across as a bitch.
The American people remember it well.
You know, not to get sexist or anything, but that's sort of the problem that women politicians have, whether they intend to or not. Especially to other women, they'll come across that way big time.
You
Right.
yourself, on multiple occasions when you were running.
As a matter of fact, perfect example of this is how I was saying earlier, I wish Pence would be more aggressive. I'm tired of Republicans being nice guys. Here she is being aggressive, being very assertive, and I'm saying she comes across real horrible. I think you're absolutely right, Clover. Astute observation.
Being aggressive, you can do it without an attitude. You know what I'm saying?
The original Green New Deal.
You can tell though he's playing her. He's pushing her buttons to get an attitude, and he's staying calm and cool and civil and polite. He's just pushing buttons. It's awesome.
A prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm not a Pence fan, but it's political theater at its best.
We'll continue
Sure it
with
is.
4 more years of President Donald
He's
Trump.
just better at it than she
Very
is.
much, Vice President Pence. Once again, you've provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting
Be right back.
hurricanes in the South. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded,
Wildfires are because of poor
climate
forest
change
management.
have made wildfires bigger,
A scientific community, it does not have a consensus on
wetter,
this, man.
slower,
What the crap?
and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. And our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the president signed the Outdoors Act. It's the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years.
And just to be fair,
Trump
our
has
air and
made-
water being the cleanest that it has been and so is
And with
not
regard to-
due to Trump and Pence.
The climate is changing.
So them taking credit on it, him taking credit for it is BS too. I'll call that.
President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back.
Did I miss anything? I had to go get some
They
soup.
imposed the Green New Deal, which would crush America.
I lost
I think
audio.
mute them.
Yeah, did you mute?
In a cleaner
Oh, I'm sorry.
environment.
Yeah, my
It's
bad.
been happening precisely because we have a strong
Did I miss
free market
anything?
economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has
I don't think
reduced
so.
CO2 more
Pence
Then
took
the-
credit for
in
Clean
the
air.
Paris.
Pence
course,
took credit for
we've
him and
done
Trump for
it.
clean water and air.
We've done it
Best
through
it's been
natural
in the
gas,
last 20 years, which I think is BS. But
which, Senator, the American people
whatever.
can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I
Let's
believe
not
that
forget how they want to get rid of the coal industry too.
Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult
you.
as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than
Thank
there
you.
were
Yep.
100 years ago.
That's right.
But many of the climate alarmists
President Pence,
use
I'm sorry, your time
hurricanes
is up.
and wildfires to try and
Thank
sell
you,
the
Vice
bill of
President.
goods of a Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are going to always put
Thank you,
American
Vice
jobs and
President.
Everybody
American.
goes, she soft soaps Harris whenever Harris was to continue.
And he co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework.
Ouch.
What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration?
Yo,
Should
here
get
we go.
attitude about it.
You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know
Attitude.
that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a
No,
fact.
That's a
that is a
prediction.
lie.
That
A
Joe
prediction
Biden
at best.
is clear
Yeah.
that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000.
That's kind of like no new taxes or the assault on your Second Amendment is over.
which is a reputable
Right.
Wall Street firm, has said
And yeah, that was
She
a poke.
does, man.
And yes,
Tricky
and yes,
question.
and yes, that was intentionally two pokes at two Republicans.
will be
Right.
created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has
And those must
seen
be
and
As
Trump's
they
fault.
are every year.
Yeah.
whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods.
Why don't you
And
ask
so Joe
any
believes, again, in
environmentalists
science.
that
I'll tell you
say
something,
that
Susan. I served when I first got to the Senate
purging
on the
land through
committee that's
natural
responsible
fire
for the
is
environment.
actually
You know, this
good for
administration
the environment at
took
times?
the word
We back
science
Forester Service backburns all the time around here, all the time.
climate change off the website. We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create
No,
jobs.
I don't know that it's about not believing science. It's about not believing the scientists. There's a difference. The global
Science.
warming bullshit was shown to be false
So-
crap made up by politically oriented people.
Country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings, Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve.
Still didn't answer the question whether they support the Green New Deal.
Kind of like all of the money that Obama gave Solyndra that went out of business like 3 years later and cost the taxpayers millions.
How'd that
The
go?
technology is not there for new renewable energy, people. It's not until we can create renewable energy products with renewable energy. It doesn't work. We still have to use coal and nuclear and oil to make those renewable energy products, those solar panels, those other things. We can't use solar panels to make solar panels.
That's right.
Is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of 4 across America.
Yep,
And with
guaranteed.
regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal. And while Joe Biden denied the Green New Deal, Susan, thank you for pointing out, the Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially as you co-sponsor.
He's playing her like a
AOC
fucking
when she
violin
submitted
right
in the
now.
Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking.
Anyone think he seems kind of presidential right now?
$2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new
There's
mandates.
a few things that worry me about Pence, but
I agree. I'm saying
I would almost rather have Pence than Trump, to be honest with you.
It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump
Thank
is
you,
going to
Vice
put
President.
America first. He's going to put jobs
He's
first.
not enough of an asshole. We need that.
Thank
But
you, Vice
on
President.
the issue of jobs,
Senator Harris.
let's talk about that. The vice
Although
president
he's impressing me tonight.
as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment.
She's stumbling all over everything.
He has all
Trade war
night.
with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at
Yeah, it
where
has nothing to do with they shutting the country
There
down. Nothing at all. Nothing.
this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people
And it has nothing to do with
That's
the tax
well,
breaks. Hold on. They gave it the tax breaks they gave corporations during the Obama
who are
administration
coming out of high school and
to
college right now, and you're wondering,
take jobs
is there going to be a
overseas.
job there for them?
So they're going to lose more jobs than any other administration, but yet
End of the
she
month,
mentioned
almost
the Great Depression earlier.
are worried
Forgetting about the Great Depression now? I'm just curious.
the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the
And
catastrophe
he's not mentioning the fact that
COVID,
of this
he
administration.
retaliated
the economy was as strong as it's ever been.
trying to release the coronavirus.
Because then I want to move on.
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost
Yeah, you would.
trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it.
Beautiful.
Over the last decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost
That'll
two.
get under her skin.
Oh, yeah.
President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut taxes,
Thank you, Vice
rolled back
President.
regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw 500,000
Thank you, Vice
manufacturing
President.
jobs
Thank you, Vice
created.
President. You can't beat up on her anymore. Thank you. Thank
What
you.
we're going to continue to see as we bring our nation through
Thank you, Vice
this
President.
pandemic. But a
Mr.
Green New
Thank you,
Deal,
Vice President.
climate accord, it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I'd
Susan,
like to-
I just need to respond very briefly.
15
please.
seconds and
Thank
then we'll
you.
move
Thank you.
Which means a minute.
Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it.
By the
So let's set the
bailout?
record straight. Thank you.
No.
By a
Balance didn't work.
trillion dollar
China.
bailout?
We
Yeah,
have-
Which really didn't do anything.
no more
Yeah.
complicated or consequential foreign relationship.
That's
than the-
bullshit because Freaking GM came back to Lordstown here in Ohio as a direct result of Trump's policies instead of moving to Mexico.
Tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies?
Yes.
You have 2 minutes.
All the above.
All the above. It's a little complicated.
Let me, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can.
Here we go.
Everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win.
There you go, budget.
Absolutely.
Dairy in the
Exactly what I was talking about.
Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto
Nice.
jobs. I think the American people deserve to know that. It's probably Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the State Senate in 2019.
Man, he is doing really well tonight.
More liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now, with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus.
Ooh, nice.
President Trump
It is. It's the truth.
Made that very clear. Made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our
WHO was
personnel
terrible the
into
first few
China
months.
to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China.
Yep.
He said it was hysterical. He said it was
Thank you, Vice
xenophobic.
President Pence.
But President Trump has
Vice
stood
President Pence,
up
your
to
time is
China.
up.
We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship. We're going to
He doesn't
level
give a
playing
shit,
field.
lady.
Why can't she not tell him once and then give him a minute or so like she does her? That's
Or you know what? Just mute. They should have a mute
Can I ask
button where
the
she
Vice
can literally
President,
mute their
how would you
microphone.
describe our fundamental relationship with
They can
China?
talk all they want, but no one's going to hear you.
well, as long as they use it fairly.
Right. That's what I'm saying. At the minute, the microphone automatically.
The Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing. There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
Not true.
There was a team of disease experts that President Obama and Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives.
Not because of COVID.
Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300 manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession, and the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed war that they called it. Then let's talk about standing.
What is she talking about?
My cheap Chinese crap is just as cheap as it ever was.
Has done an analysis that shows
Still in business.
all of our
I didn't see prices go up on anything.
now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist
Not too
Party,
bad you can't get Noriko ammo, right?
President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
What?
Senator Harris, we've seen changes
Uh-huh.
in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership.
Let me translate.
Years.
Orange man bad.
All right.
Change.
Yeah.
What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the vice president mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
And I would like to point out, folks, still no mention of gun
I
control.
love Joe about a lot of these issues. And,
It'll
Joe,
come.
I think he said it quite well. He says, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships.
Bull. No, it's not.
And so we know this in our
You
personal
can't simplify it like that. You can't.
You gotta keep your word to your friends. Gotta be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, gotta stand with them.
No, wrong.
Yeah, so let's send the bust of whomever that was back to England, like Obama did, right?
With Donald Trump is that he has
And basically
betrayed.
shit all over England like Obama did.
Allies are not friends. Look at the
Allies are allies because
Yeah.
of treaties,
Let's
not
take, for
because
example,
of friendships.
So, I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election
Intelligence is a prerequisite.
playing in 2020. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same. But Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our
Bring up
friends.
Hunter Biden in response. Please bring up Hunter Biden.
Today,
That
from a great
he prefers to take President $3.5 million.
has put us in a position
Pence
where
will.
we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of
Around the
Donald
country or around the
Trump's
world?
unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan,
Coupled with the fact he was tired of sending money to Iran for them
The whole
to
thing
hide
is
their nukes.
That's
Well,
correct.
how many was it 150 million or 150 billion that
Billion.
Obama gave to Iran?
When it was in the billions, that was,
Billion.
Thank
and
you.
all that did was they
President
took it underground.
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital. of the state.
Ooh.
When Joe Biden was vice president, they promised to do that, and they never did. We stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's
Correct.
leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump
Bye-bye.
unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller, the parents of which are here with us tonight in Salt Lake City. Today, 2 of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other beetle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Mueller. It breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before they killed her. But when Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look, we
President.
destroyed the ISIS caliphate. And you talk about re-entering the Iran nuclear deal. I mean, the last administration transferred $1.8 billion to the leading state sponsor
Thank you, Vice
of
President.
terrorism. President Donald Trump got us out of the deal.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
And when Qasem Soleimani was traveling to Baghdad.
See,
Thank
here's
you.
the thing
Armed
that
to
Harris needs to
America.
understand. It's not
President
about
Donald Trump
friendships.
Thank you,
took
Vice
out.
President.
We are
And
the
America
only
is
superpower
safer.
left.
Our
If you
allies
want
are
to be
safer.
friends with us, you're going to be friends with us on
President Donald
our
Trump will never
terms.
Thank you,
Yep.
Vice President.
That's how it works.
We'd like to give Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length because, of course, there are other topics we want to talk about.
But I would like equal time.
Yes,
Thank you.
please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm
Cool.
so sorry.
While she's
Really?
smiling about it.
What happened
Yeah.
to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way,
But
and I know that President
There's a
Obama
big
feels
butt
the same
coming
way.
here.
but
But you mentioned.
Oh, there it is.
there it is. Got it.
So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter,
Just remember, folks, everything before the butt is bullshit.
That's correct.
and they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as?
Oh,
Headaches.
God. Whatever.
And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump.
So Trump's a doctor now, military doctor.
Apparently.
Our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers, Donald Trump, who
Well,
went
not
to
stupid bastard.
and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes and said, what's in it for them? Because of course, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero.
And a Weasley-ass politician.
He doesn't deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war. And this is very important. When
Is
you
she gonna
wanna
try to
talk
start
about
crying here?
Who is the current commander-in-chief?
Trying to, I
And
think.
what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that
Who was in
Russia
office during Benghazi?
No, you already mentioned
American
Benghazi, I
soldiers.
promise
And you
you.
know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed.
Now, she
And
told her
Donald-
she could have a little bit of time, and she's just giving her the floor.
Uh-huh.
Crap, I thought we got to move on.
Never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank
Joe
you.
Biden, but Joe Biden.
Nah, but
No.
even though we're paying bounties on our troops, Joe Biden's son would take $3.5 million from him.
Joe Biden would never do that. Trust me, that's a fact.
Bill
Yeah,
Maher,
okay.
for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well. And
Susan,
I want to make
respond
sure
to
we
that.
have a chance.
I really have to
talk about-
respond to that.
I'm
Look, she has
15 seconds because
Well, I got to
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep-
that. Look,
well, you more
Bad.
time than she's had so far.
slanders against President Donald Trump regarding men and women of our armed forces are absurd.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son is
Pence.
a captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is.
Let's see if she
deployed in the
interrupts him
United
now.
States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military, President Donald Trump not only respects but reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous.
But
Let
Thank
me
you,
also
Vice President
say
Pence.
the
Vice
The
President
American
Pence,
people
you know,
deserve, Susan,
Vice
the
President
American
Pence,
people
I
deserve to
didn't,
know.
Vice President
There's-
Pence, I did not,
That you
excuse
can't
me.
deny.
Susan,
Oh, shit
For
show.
tonight,
Joe Biden.
your
and Trump-
campaigns agreed to the rules of tonight's
I-
debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another,
Well, you need to
giving
enforce
roughly-
them on her next time.
which is
Uh-huh.
what I'm trying very hard to
Go
do.
right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court.
Ooh.
Here we go. This could get
On Monday,
interesting.
the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to
Whatever. Quit interjecting your
Access
Yeah.
to-
political opinions.
and be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned,
Second Amendment.
what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban all abortions uninterrupted?
Well, thank you for the question, but
Let's see
I'll
how he
use a little
does.
bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds
Yeah, he's
of
sidestepping.
American service members.
I don't blame
The
him either.
opportunity came when we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate. And Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani.
What he's also going to
It's really
do is he's going to
inexplicable,
force
but
her to
with
use some
regard
of
to
her
Joe Biden,
time
it's explainable.
to come after these
Because
attacks.
history records that Joe Biden.
He's a pretty intelligent
against
dude,
Osama
obviously.
bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States,
There we go.
let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett. She's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees, you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views. And
Thank you.
views.
Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes place, that
Thank you,
He's
Vice
forcing her to
Judge
address
Amy Coney
that.
Barrett will
This is going to be good.
Thank you, Vice President
respectfully
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
with the
you.
Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator
Yep.
Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed.
Oh,
Why don't you
so
ask your exact question?
If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing
They
Catholic.
sure don't show their faith very much for them to be people. So she's taking offense to something she's not outwardly portraying at all.
Right.
Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And,
Yeah, but we're more than that with who takes office.
It's
So-
been about
This is
election year
correct.
or election time. We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that
Roe
of
v.
Donald.
Wade is so solid. I don't know why.
Roe v. Wade is not
What
getting
else is
overturned.
It's just a political play for them to even suggest that it's going to get overturned.
Right.
I don't think you would get it overturned if you had all the justices on the conservative side.
I agree.
Died, and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And
Yep.
I said it before, and it bears
What's this got to do with the question asked?
Nothing to do with the
that
Supreme
there will
Court.
be no more protections if they
Affordable
win
Care Act or the mandate?
conditions. This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage.
This has nothing to do
It
with
means that if you're
abortion
under the age
or
of 26,
the Supreme
you
Court.
can't stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's
If you're an
expand
adult, get your own damn coverage.
public
Thank you,
option or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums.
Thank you, Senator
Let's
Harris.
lower Medicare eligibility to 60.
Thank you, Senator.
That's true
Harris.
leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained how he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases with such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer.
He's playing the bass right now.
He has to. He has to.
Late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court
Exactly.
of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed?
Oh,
There have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years, if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of, if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules.
Exactly.
Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed at the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more.
You started.
Whoa. Here we go.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking. I'm speaking.
oh,
In
Oh.
1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume of you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
For
Abraham
someone who
Lincoln
considers herself to be
was up for
black, I would think
re-election.
that she'd be a fan of Lincoln.
And it was 27 days before the election. And a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court.
Of course,
Abraham
that
Lincoln,
little thing made her family stop being slave owners.
but Honest Abe said, it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision about who will serve on this most important body for a
2012.
lifetime.
Thank you,
And
Senator
the
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't win this nomination.
Let's talk about
You
packing.
once
Come on,
again
let's
gave a
be
non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
trying to answer you
The
now.
American people deserve a straight answer. And
no, you're
if
not.
you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice President,
I got to
I
tell you,
think
people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket come November the 3rd. We'll stand by that separation of powers and not see the Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then.
Let's do,
Let's
yeah.
talk about the
Please.
fact. Yeah, I'm about to.
Oh,
So
She's such a
the
bitch.
Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who
Yes or
are
no, lady?
ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard.
whatever.
And who
You don't
knows?
get to the point of even being able to be nominated by being incompetent or substandard, no matter which which side of the aisle you're on, by the way.
That's
Lifetime
correct.
appointments, not one is black. This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's
There
have that
we
discussion.
go.
What does race have to do with it?
Thank you,
Here
Senator.
we
Let's on and
go.
talk
This
about
is
the
it.
issue
This is why
of
she's here,
racial
folks.
justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never answered the question. Maybe the next debate.
Okay, I take it back.
People know the answer.
Pence is pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I like
In
pants.
March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency
Oh,
room
here we go.
Oh,
was
shit.
shot
This ought to
and
be
killed
interesting.
after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him to fire a shot, which wounded an officer. The officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
Ooh.
I don't believe so. And I've talked with.
They're trying to
Breonna's
put
mother,
Pence on the wrong
Mama,
side of this.
and her family, and her family deserves justice.
It'll be interesting to see how he comes with this.
She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn.
What he needs to do is talk about her visit to Jacob Blake and how proud she is, the rape.
As Attorney General, what Kamala Harris there would want to do was she wouldn't want her to get shot. She would want her to be arrested and then jailed.
Falsely,
because she'd done that a lot during her tenure.
An American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country,
Oh, she flipped it to Floyd.
of every age, of every gender,
No.
perfect strangers to each other,
Yeah, she's talking about Floyd.
shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm,
Oh, it's
fighting
The dude that was full of enough fentanyl to kill a horse.
the idea of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests.
Peaceful protest.
And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops.
You're an elected
We need
official as a
reform
prosecutor, but you're talking
our
about.
policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will
No, he wouldn't.
require a
You think
national
that cop was going
Not
to kill
according
that?
to the autopsy. The autopsy said he died of fentanyl overdose.
criminal
That
justice
cop
reform.
killed. He murdered
Get rid
George
of
Floyd. Let's be
private
real.
prisons
That
and
cop
pass
isn't going to
bail,
give a
and
shit
we will
about what laws out
decriminalize
there.
marijuana, and
Thank
we
you,
will
Senator Harris.
we will expunge the records of those who have
Thank you,
been
Senator
convicted
Harris.
of marijuana.
Oh,
This is
Thank you.
leadership.
I'll vote for that, but everything else is BS.
Unarmed
Right.
Black people in America. who have
Thank you,
been killed.
Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me pose the same question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of
Ooh,
innocent-
this could be
any
interesting.
innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust the justice system. A grand jury refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence.
Wow, he was not seeing that coming.
I think with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd.
Right.
Justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing. Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon, was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life back together. And I must tell you, this presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that America is systemically racist. And that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit bias against minorities, is a great insult to the men and women who serve in law enforcement. And I want everyone to know, who puts on the uniform of law enforcement every day,
Playing bass again.
President Trump and I
Yeah, he is.
stand with you.
I mean,
It is remarkable that when Senator
how
Tim
else is
Scott
supposed to answer
tried
that
pass
question
the
without
police
sounding
reform bill,
racist? I mean,
brought
honestly,
together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris,
that's why she's
You
on the
got up and
ticket,
walked out
is
of
to
the
put
room.
race
Well,
as
you
he
flipped
may
it.
be, just wait. He may be setting up some race stuff here.
would have
He could.
provided new accountability, new resources. But we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement improving public safety, and supporting our African American
Thank you, Vice
neighbors and
President.
all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership,
Thank you,
we'll
Vice President
always
Pence.
stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done
Vice
from day
President Pence,
one, and
thank
that is
you. Your time
improve
is
the
up.
lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice
Record
President
unemployment, record
Vice
investments in
President Pence, your
education,
time is
school choice for all of our
Pence.
members.
Thank you, Vice
I'd
President.
like to respond.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on
Oh,
what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who was personally prosecuted.
Yes, you
Everything
have.
from child sexual assault to homicide.
right.
I'm
Anybody
the
and everybody you can put in
Excessively
jail.
prosecuted and extended
We
sentences just
won't
so you
argue
can get
that
more
point.
workers for the state. Shut up.
Yeah. No one's going to argue the point
Taking
that on that
advantage of
point.
Our veterans.
What?
And the reality of this is that we are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Bull.
Which he's
True.
done on at least two other occasions on video before.
Yeah, but that's not
Chance.
true what you just
He
said.
didn't do it, and then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by.
And the Proud Boys aren't racist anyway.
Part
Proud
of a-
Boys are a joke that stemmed from
Yeah.
Gavin McGinnis making a joke.
He called Mexicans rapists and criminals.
Well, he didn't. He called Mexican criminals racist and criminals.
Racist
Or
criminal.
rapists
Uh,
and
racist.
criminals.
Yeah.
Where people were peacefully protesting the need for
And
race.
peacefully burning and looting and murdering.
And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides.
No,
This
he
is-
didn't. He
That's
condemned
what he
them
said.
before he said that. He condemned them. He was talking about the peaceful people.
That's
Brings
correct.
Before that, he
and
verbatim condemned the white nationalists and the neo Nazis.
Thank
so
you.
much more in common than what separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you a minute.
Yeah, please.
Susan, I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bring up Biden at the funeral.
One of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan,
Uh,
is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did,
Selectively
comments that
edit.
President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly. You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people. But you talk about having personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up that.
there we go.
I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses
Yep.
than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney
Thank you.
General of California,
Thank you,
you
Vice President.
increased
Yeah, thank you.
for the disproportionate incarceration of
Thank you.
blacks in California.
Yeah.
You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California.
He
You
is
didn't lift a
absolutely
finger to
wiping
pass
the
first
floor
step
with her
back on
tonight.
Capitol Hill.
And she's getting ready to lose her
Reality
shit
is
here.
Your record
She's taking
speaks for
it.
itself. President Trump and I have fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice
We
President
fought for
Pence.
educational choice. And
Oh, for
opportunity.
Christ's sake, they met with Kim Kardashian. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, that-
Thank you. You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're
She's
gonna
gonna
talk
lose
about
her
tonight,
shit.
and that is the issue of the election
But
itself.
Susan,
She's like,
impact
but-
my record. I would
I'm
like-
going to talk about gun control. I told you.
Because we're running out of
I
time.
appreciate that. First of all,
They know that's a losing issue for Harris and Biden, so they're going to avoid it.
California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do.
oh my God.
Wow.
Well, if you're out there and you're black, you better listen to that. Just saying.
Oh, shit.
Includes what this administration has failed to do. It will be about not only instituting a ban on chokeholds and carotid holes,
Thank you.
not only.
Has nothing to do with
I
your
would like to go
record.
through,
She may bring up gun control.
And I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
but I want to talk about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes I was the first statewide officer.
What happened to your campaign agreed to the rules?
Time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement on implicit bias, because yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do once they're arrested and you railroad them.
Reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the
She's going to bring up gun
done
control
and
here.
the work we will do going forward. And
I thought
again,
she was probably going to go that way.
by the Vice President on our record of what we have done in terms of law enforcement and keeping our communities safe, and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you.
Well, she was smart by not going there. I thought she was going to.
First, I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself.
Final topic.
President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election.
Oh, what a bunch of hockey.
And President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power. What steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen?
What the hell does this have to do with anything?
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one.
Who cares if it's a peaceful transfer or not?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There's mechanisms in place that it's
come January 20th. It doesn't matter what the transfer is. Come January 20th, it's over.
They pose that question like we live in some weird third world country or something. It's like we live in a republic, people. You can't just stay in the presidency. It don't work that way. You will get removed at some point.
Come January 20th at noon, you're done.
Retired generals and former national security experts and advisors are supporting our campaign. And I believe they are doing that because they know that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to life.
She's just pimping Joe now.
And so we believe in the American people. We believe.
Well, I hope so. You're running for vice president. I'd hope you believe in the American people.
Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan.
Yeah, vote early. Vote
often. You can also
She doesn't believe in the American people. She believes in a path to her own power.
Dig them up, pile them up, drag them in, whatever you got to do.
What will be the course of our country for the next 4 years? And it is within our power. And if we use our vote,
more than that, because of Supreme Court picks,
we will win.
Oh, yeah.
And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy.
And not just the Supreme Court, but the federal judiciary as a whole.
They're not going to let anybody subvert our democracy. Again, people, we are a republic.
It's correct. Constitutional republic.
Vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record. Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your
Why would he refuse a peaceful transfer of power to begin with? Like, where did this come from?
Well, it's their idea of peaceful transfer, and their peaceful transfer is that they work together up until the 20th of January or whatever. And historically, there's been transfers of power that they want to call it that have not been peaceful. I mean, it's like they don't communicate up until that point. Nothing.
He's launched a movement of everyday Americans.
Go ask how LBJ and Nixon's transfer was. Holy hell!
Right, but it's still they act like he's not gonna leave. You know what I'm saying? They act like, oh, he's just going to become a dictator all of a sudden and just not leave. You can't do that. You will get removed. And if you don't, you'll get shot.
Correct.
We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. When you talk about accepting the outcome of the election.
Just the tone between the two.
Oh my God!
She's all screechy in attitude and just the tone, man. He just
overturned the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA actually made a referral to the FBI documenting that those allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And of course, we've all seen the avalanche, what what you put the country through for the better part of 3 years until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then Senator Harris, you and your colleagues in the Congress tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So let me just say, I think we're going to win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud.
Yes.
We have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more years.
You know, I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote, "When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are 2 candidates from opposing parties trying to tear each other down.
Stop watching the news.
Get along. How are
That's the answer to that.
And then she added, your examples could make all the difference to bring us together," end quote. So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. And we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. I would tell you that
Pence knocked it out of the ballpark
what you're
tonight.
seeing on your local
He was solid for sure.
network is
But
synonymous
it's
with
not
the,
uncommon for him.
No,
I look
no.
at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost,
And Scalia. Watch
and
it.
the late
Scalia.
Justice Antonin Scalia.
There you go. Good friend, man.
They
Yeah.
were on polar opposites.
Absolute
on the Supreme
polar
Court of the United
opposites.
States. One very liberal, one very conservative.
Yep.
But what's learned since her passing was the 2 of them and their families
Yep.
were the closest of
That's
friends.
right.
Yep.
I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and I have on this stage tonight. But when the debate is over, we come together as Americans. And that's what people do in big cities and small towns all across this country. So I just want to encourage you.
All right, Harris, let's see how this goes for you now.
We don't work every day to have government as good as our people. And the American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument, but we always come together and are always there for one another
Thank you.
in
Vice
times
President.
of need. And we've especially learned that
Thank you,
through
Mr.
the
Vice President.
difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear
Young
her
leaders. How do you know she's a leader?
I know our future is bright because it is that perspective on who we are and who we should be. That is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden.
Wow, here we go.
One of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after
Because the DNC didn't want Bernie. That's why.
She's not even talking to the little kid like he did.
No.
Now she's pitching for Biden.
What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years,
That little kid don't care about Joe running for president. That little kid wants to hear your thoughts on the division.
You're a female. You should be the leader to this woman, this girl.
Right.
And what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden
Joe would sure care about sniffing that kid, though.
Oh, I guarantee you.
fighting for their dignity. I mean, you have to know Joe's story to know that Joe has known pain, he has known suffering, and he has known love. And so,
Lifetime
And he knows the scent of 97 different brands of shampoo.
right. And it will be because of your leadership, and it will be because We fight for each person's voice through their vote, and we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through.
No, she doesn't. She's an 8th grader.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, she just fixed herself.
And what its leadership looks like.
Thank you.
Was
Senator
she
Harris.
not totally incoherent if she was talking to an 8-year-old?
Yeah.
We want to thank
Seriously.
also the University of Utah for its
What a
hospitality.
crock.
And most of all, our thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady, and everyone who is battling COVID-19. The second presidential debate is next week on October 15th, a town hall style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join us. Good evening.
Assuming Joe accepts it and does it.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and mute this now. Unless.
Goodbye.
There is no way Biden debates Trump next week.
Man.
Well,
And by the way,
you
I wish I'd been
Democrats-
taking bets on the whole gun control topic thing. I'd have won.
Well, the Democrats will say she won. The Republicans will say he won. You know how it's going to go.
Yeah, that was. I'll put it to you this way. I mean, yes, they're both the spin doctors are going to be playing their things for the next 12 hours. We all get that. Regardless of your political sways, and I know that most people here are going to have a tendency probably to sway more towards Pence in this room, at least. I would say this. I have never been a huge Pence fan. I've never been against Pence. I just never have been a huge guy that said, you know, when Trump's done, I would like to really see Pence run. You know, I never was that guy.
Me either. No.
Tonight, man, he impressed me. And it's not all what he said and what the points he was making. It was how he handled himself. He was presidential. He was very succinct in all of his thoughts. He stayed classy. He attacked in a way that wasn't, how do I put this? It didn't hurt anyone's feelings, I don't think.
No.
Then on the flip side, I think he understood that I'm going to give her the rope. She's going to do it herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go through the room and I'm going to bring Gary. Because Gary hadn't said much since he's been here. I'm going to start with you first, Gary. Your impressions of what happened tonight. What are the kind of the high points that you thought happened tonight?
Well, tell you what, I didn't know a whole lot about Pence before tonight, to tell you the truth. But it looked like to me he didn't get rattled. He was very calm and collected, but he had all his thoughts together, spoke very clearly, and impressed me his ability to stay on topic and to make good decisions and not get pinned in any corners or anything like that. It's really impressed.
Absolutely. Budget, I know you're at work. You know, if you want to kind of, before you had to jump out, go ahead and tell us what you thought of the debate tonight.
I'm actually driving home now. And
Okay, good.
what I thought of the debate tonight, I echo your thoughts that Pence he handled himself very well, and he scored his points while remaining classy. That being said, up until tonight, Pence has always been a non-entity to me. Just kind of there, a placeholder, just in case something happens to Trump.
Yeah.
That's changed. I am very impressed with him. I would like to see him be a little more aggressive because, as I stated earlier, I'm sick to death of these Republican politicians who are milquetoast, nice guys who just roll over and take another smack from the Dems. And it doesn't seem like he's quite there. So that's good.
Yep. Rich White says that the high point for him was that Pence setting himself up for 2024 run. Obviously, that's going to be something that a sitting vice president and candidate for the to be another term vice president is going to want to do. But I don't think what I liked about it is you're absolutely right, Rich. He did. He just made himself no matter what happens in November, he just made himself the front runner of the 2024 race, not by saying that he's a front runner, just by being who he is. And like I said, and I agree with Gizzard and Budget, and I'm going to bring Clover here in a second. It's not that I never disliked him. I just didn't seem to, Pence never bothered me. He never did anything for me. I don't remember ever once in the last 4 years going, man, I'm glad that Pence is our VP. But I didn't ever said that I'm glad. I wish he wasn't either. It's just he wasn't a thought. Tonight, for the first time, and I'm going to ask this to you, Clover. I'm going to let you go into what you thought of the debate, but I'm going to ask this to Clover, Budget, and Gary. Feel free to jump in. Was it that he was so much better than her, or did she just lose her shit and basically made it easy for him? Clover, I'm going to let you start.
Well, where do you want me to go with it? You want me to
start
go
with your thoughts of the debate first? Yeah.
Well, I followed Pence for a long time. I mean, he pretty much, handled it back last debate as well. And he's well spoken. He's calm. He's real tactical. He knows how to give somebody just enough rope to hang themselves. As far as the ability to debate, he's got it. I think he's one of those politicians that does care enough that he's aware of the situations and he's aware of all the different angles of that situation.
Okay, before you go on real quick, I want to mention that because I think that's what it is. He seemed very, very, very sincere about everything he said tonight.
Yeah, no,
I think I agree with everything. He seemed sincere about it all.
I think regardless, and I think part of that is regardless of politics. Pence is and his faith may play a role in this. It certainly could, but he's a genuinely good dude. You know what I mean?
I think so too. I think
he's
so
not
too.
shifty, shady, looking for angles, right?
Yep.
So and I mean that come across just like anything else really I've seen him do. I think the takeaway and what people need to realize when they're looking at this, and of course we're probably preaching to a choir here, I'm sure, but the takeaway is you look at both of these people on the stage, look at their demeanor, look at their cool, look at how they handle things, look at their knowledge, and then realize that whoever you vote for as president, these two individuals that were on the stage tonight are a heartbeat away from being the president. A heartbeat. We've got a president now that has COVID. So best wishes for him and his family and everything else, obviously. But that really, right now, that really puts this all into perspective. That these two people is not just a sidekick. It's not Robin to the Batman that really doesn't do anything. You're talking about people that are literally a heartbeat away from being the most powerful person on the planet. And absolutely. When you look at such a contrast, Reagan said it best when it said, set yourself apart, get rid of the pastels, bold colors. I don't think you get any bolder of a difference than you've seen between Pence and Harris tonight. I just don't see it.
Yep. I really, it is interesting and maybe for all that President Trump is, and he's a lot of things, brash, very vocal, arrogant. There's a reason I believe that Mike Pence was probably the choice 4 years ago. I really do believe that. I think that he brings a calmness to whatever room. And if they're both going to be in a room, I have no inclination to think that Donald Trump isn't as fiery in the Situation Room as he is on Twitter. But I'm also going to believe that Mike Pence is in there saying, I'm going to keep a cooler head. So maybe it works out. Just like you said, Joe Biden, we all know that Creepy Joe is not in the greatest health. We just saw what the future of the White House could be.
Well, regardless, like I said, look at the current situation with the president. Regardless of, even if both presidential candidates were in the prime of their life, 30 some odd year old Kennedy.
Yep.
Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Correct.
You could choke on a, piece of fried chicken you're eating for dinner. Anything can happen.
Yeah. Great debate, great conversation. Thunder says good night, my friends. Good night.
An interesting thing I threw out there. They were talking about 2024. And I've said this. I have an infatuation, and I continually become more infatuated with Tulsi Gabbard. The more I see of her, and the more she freaking talks. I swear, she has been wronged so bad by the Democrat Party, yet she stays there. I would like to see a Tulsi Gabbard flip to the Republican Party and see something like Pence Gabbard 2024.
I agree. Gabbard is impressive. I'm going to tell you this, and this is going to get a lot of hate out there, and that's okay because I don't really give a shit. Not talking politics here. Not talking politics. As a person, I think that Buttigieg is one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. This is a dude that has literally sit there and said, here I am, guys.
Yeah.
And I think that he's going to he was wrong by the Democratic Party. I think Gabbard was wrong by the Democratic Party. But I think that, honestly, I think that Buttigieg and Gabbard will be maybe not the faces, but they will be the leaders probably behind the scenes. They're leading the Democratic Party for years to come.
Yeah, they've got their time coming. If you look at the Feinsteins, the Pelosi's, the Schumers, you look at a lot of the old crotchety dudes. I mean, look at Biden. Their time is limited just because of lifespan of a human. And you've got there's some hope. We talk about the Democrat Party and how it's went so far from its roots. I mean, you talk about Texas Democrats and stuff like that, back in the day, and they've moved so far from those roots. It's crazy that it's refreshing to see the younger Democrats being like those two, like the Buttigieg and the Gabbards, that are reminiscent, right, of those Kennedy Democrats. It's really interesting to see. And I think unless you grew up in and remember a time when those type of Democrats exist, and I'll be honest with you, those types of Democrats exist right now where I live in Texas.
Absolutely.
Then you don't see it. You get polarized by this right, left, Democrat, Republican thing too much, and you don't see it. But either one of them, I could probably have stomached as president, to be honest.
I have to tell you that I'm sure they're probably, on a personal level, very fine people, but unless they made some very serious policy changes, I would rather cast my ballot for a purple-assed baboon.
There you go. Got a question from Knives. Yo, what's up, Knives? I'm going to put this into the room. He said, "What did you think about the moderator? Was she one-sided?" I mean, here's my thing about the moderator. I don't think she was one-sided. I think she was completely out of her league. I don't think that this person, she had no reason to be in that room. I would like to have someone, politics aside and all that, but someone like a Katie Couric, someone who's really not afraid to say, shut the hell up. Her threats of your time's up, no one cared. You could tell from the very beginning, neither one of the candidates respected her enough to listen to anything that she was saying. So I don't think that she was one-sided. I think that she was way out of her league. Gary, what about you? Or budget, doesn't matter. Clover?
Well, I think that you're right. Pence was not fazed by her whatsoever and just continued to talk. And I believe that she didn't try to interrupt Harris as much as she did Pence. While Pence didn't intimidate her, Pence wasn't intimidated by her. She wasn't intimidated by Pence. On the other hand, I think Harris scared the shit out of her. I think she's intimidated by Harris and figures that backstage Harris would knock her block off if she ran her mouth, so she just didn't.
Yeah. Real quick before Gary jumps in, Doc says you're hoping I'm not saying I'm hoping that Gabbard and Buttigieg are the future. I'm saying I think they will be. I think that they will be, whether or not I want that or not to be leadership or whatever. I think that they are the future of the Democratic Party. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I had replied to him out there. I guess it's okay just to say it that, he was talking about, he thinks AOC is the future of the party, maybe at some point, but AOC is a laughing stock even amongst the Democrat Party. So I don't see that. And the reason that you look at, she's a laughing stock. Buttigieg and especially Gabbard are hated on by the establishment of the Democrat Party. That means something.
They're not just exactly.
That means something. They see something in them, like these people can dethrone us. They see them as a threat. AOC,
the Democratic Party's leadership.
Right. AOC, they don't see as a threat.
That's right. Yep. Gary, what about you? What did you think about the moderator?
She didn't really sound like she was in real good control, to tell you the truth. But I mean, yes, obviously, I think she was leaning a little bit more towards, away from Pence. But that was expected from the start. That's no big surprise. We knew who was moderating this and what they were. But I just don't think this was the kind of person who could maintain control and steer the candidates to stay on topic. And she didn't do a very good job. She just nobody saw her as an authority.
Yeah. We are having some people out there that are not typically with us. That's fine. I'm all for that. I ask if you're in here, hey, contribute to the conversation. Try to stay somewhat on topic. We are not going to worry about what you say unless it gets way over a line. Say what you got to say, but keep it on topic and all that. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the channel. Have fun with it. My moderators don't have a quick hammer, but have a very succinct hammer. Let's see here. Okay, so G23 says the crowd on Telemundo is going crazy for Pence and Trump. That's interesting. Ironically, if you think about the 2016 election, and that's how he won, was the minority vote, which is crazy, for being the racist that he is. It's interesting. It's interesting to me. It doesn't surprise me that Latinos are they're working, and I think the ones that are here legally, I think that because I have people that are around my life that are here legally, including my wife who's here legally. She's an immigrant. She's not a citizen. I think the people that are here legally appreciate the fact that illegal immigrants they can be held accountable. That being said, I don't understand why people think that minorities are automatically Democrats. I've never understood that. I've never understood, maybe because of the 60s and the civil rights movement, but I've never understood why if you're a minority, you're automatically a Democrat. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Rubio. Yeah, that's right. Doc said it 8 years ago. We were sure that Rubio was going to be the next Republican candidate. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true.
I think that, when you talk about the minorities and stuff, I mean, I haven't spoken to a minority online, in person, that Harris is a deal breaker.
Yeah,
she's a deal breaker, and it's because of what Pence brought up.
Yeah.
It hurts because she's not. Could she be considered a minority? Yes, regardless of how much black she actually is, right?
She's a minority, but she's not. I mean, she's got a lot of things.
But she's called black in the same way that Obama was called black. And I mean, was, if you've got any kind of mix of black, you're considered black. That's just the way it is.
Right.
And I think a lot of black folks, they liked Obama, but at the same time they felt Obama burned them. And so with Harris's record of just incarcerating and railroading so many minorities as AG, on top of the fact of, well, she's not authentically black, right? Or whatever, however you want to word that. And the remembrance of how they weren't fond of Obama because of what he did not give them, basically, or didn't do what he said he was going to do, then I don't know. I mean, I think we still, I don't think anything changes at this point. I don't think anything changes with a minority demographic as far as voting. I just don't see it.
I don't either. And I agree with what you're saying. I will say that I think that the minority vote was heavily for Obama in 2008 because of the idea of Obama.
Well, and it was the first time it was
exactly
mental. It
was
and say what you will about Obama, but dude had charisma, man.
No, that's what I'm saying is the idea of President Obama was huge. Okay. And it wasn't just with minorities. It was, I mean, the wave took over. Let's be real. There are a lot of people that voted for Barack Obama because of the idea of President Obama. And you're right. I think that once elected, I think there's a lot of people said, oh shit, maybe we should have looked at some of his politics a little bit closer. Secondly, there was really no record. I mean, it's not like he was a lifetime, 30 plus year senator or congressman that had all these voting records and all of that. He really came out of nowhere. So I think that the idea, I think what people are saying is we're not going to make the same mistake as we did in 2008. We're not going to vote for what the picture looks like. We might actually have to look and see what's behind the curtain. And I don't think that Harris wants people to look behind the curtain. That's just me. Patriot out there says, why is everyone missing the major points? Biden doesn't want to go to Mars. Why not? What's he hiding?
Okay.
There you go. I have no idea. I don't know. So it is what it is. So yeah, it was, like I said, from anything else, I don't remember. I know that I have. I watched most of them. But I don't remember taking as much interest in a vice presidential debate than tonight. And it wasn't because I thought it was going to be a wonderful debate. It really wasn't a wonderful debate. It was pretty boring, actually. But I was more interested in this tonight because I wanted to see how Pence, who, like we've all said in this room, for seemingly the last 4.5 years since he was kind of been in the limelight of the Republican Party in the country, has always seemed to be this calm, collected, classy individual. And we know that Senator Harris is not those things most of the time. I wanted to see how that was going to play out. And I was a little worried. That Pence might have his hands full with her because I figured she was going to do what Trump does to everyone else in a debate, is completely talk over them, not let them get a point across, and dominate the conversation. And like I said, Pence impressed me tonight. Let's see here. Yeah, Travis out there says he thought that Harris looked bad when she wouldn't answer a direct yes or no. She did that several times. I don't think that's anything new.
Hey, Ghost.
Yeah, man.
I don't know about everybody else, but I took
Yeah.
particular interest in this because for the first time, we're talking about two people who are in their mid to late 70s running for president. And
Yeah.
there's a very good chance, probably for the first time ever, that whichever one of them is elected may not serve out their term. So we may very well be looking at a future president when we look at this vice president debate. So I think this one, more than any other, is important.
Well, I would agree 100% with you. I think that there is if Biden wins, I think that there is about a 95% chance that he doesn't make it. I think that if Trump wins again, there's a above 50. So I think you're right. I think, and I haven't really thought about it that way, but I agree. Yeah, I think that is very plausible on both sides of the ticket. Yeah.
With Biden, it's not just health; it's senility too.
That's what I'm talking about.
I think he is just hanging on to sanity by a fingernail.
No, I think that if Biden gets elected, I think the 25th Amendment will be used in the first year, maybe 2 years, but I think within the first year, the 25th Amendment will be used.
Trump's biggest thing is going to be with diet more than anything. He's not.
Never has been. Yeah.
Yeah. But Trump's not in altogether horrible health.
No. I mean, for a guy that's 70 plus years old, I mean.
And you got to look at too, good Lord, look at, which it was brought up, which was a wonderful thing. I'm glad Pence brought up the Ginsburg, Scalia thing, but look at Ginsburg and look at how many years she battled, how many different types of cancer and all this. So there's something to be said about being in good enough health that you're the president of the United States. And so you've got doctors and everything else at your beck and call around you all the time, that you can be pretty close to death's door and still make it quite a few years. And I think that's obvious by Ginsburg because she had that kind of treatment, obviously being a Supreme Court justice.
Well, you also look at if we would have had social media and the news and Walter Cronkite, even most people that actually read a lot of history stuff would know that FDR was not running the country the last couple of years. I mean, let's just be real. His wife was basically running the country. But then again, he probably wouldn't have been elected. I don't think America elects a man in a wheelchair if there was 24-hour news back in the 20s,
Right. Well, Texas elected a governor, but yeah, I hear you.
No, I'm just saying, I don't, in the 1930s, I don't think America, maybe a Roosevelt because he's Teddy's cousin, maybe that would have helped him. But what I'm saying but FDR was in poor health. I mean, he did a lot of things, and you can still have a very sharp mind and be in poor health and make sound decisions and do what you're supposed to do and not leave the bedroom. That's just,
and there have been presidents that have gotten deathly ill and stuff throughout time and been able to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
G23 says, and yes, I watch a lot of Telemundo news. Hey man, I don't watch news in general. I literally cut off the satellite service in October of 2018, and I haven't watched. I'm not saying that I don't turn on Fox or CNN or whatever to catch up, but I haven't watched the local news since October 1st of 2018. I got sick of it. And Patriot brings up a good point. Every time that Pence would seemingly ask her, or put her in a corner, she tried to turn it to Biden, and Joe would do this. Joe would do this. We're not worried about what Joe. This is not the presidential debate. We want to know what you would do because we all know that you're going to be in that office if he wins. So I think you're right. She liked to turn a lot of questions and answer them what Joe would do and not what she would do, because I don't think she really wants people to know what she would do. So Little known that fact that Eleanor was a Roosevelt before. Yes, they were, I think, third or fourth cousins or something. It is what it is. The Roosevelts weren't brothers. I think they were cousins, were they not? Teddy and FDR, I think they were cousins. I don't think they were brothers.
They weren't brothers. They were a relation like cousin or nephew
Yeah.
or
I
something.
knew they were
like
related, but I don't think they were brothers. I think they were cousins. But yeah, I knew they weren't brothers, but I was fairly certain they were related. All right. So hell, it's after 10 o'clock. I'm getting tired. I'm getting hungry. But yeah, thanks for coming on, guys. Like I said, I wanted to watch this, and I figured I would rather watch it with friends and have a discussion about it than getting mad and throwing my phone on the ground, because I had a feeling that she was going to piss me off at least once tonight. And so thank you guys for coming. Thank you to Clover, Gary, and Budget for coming on, jumping on here, having a great discussion. Thanks for everyone out there that watched this with us and participated in the chat. There's a great chat. It really was really good stuff. I think everyone had fun, but I think everyone was excited about what happened tonight. Before we go, I want to let everyone on the panel to kind of give a plug. Budget, let you go first and kind of plug the channel. Where can people find you? What you got coming down the pipe here?
Thanks for the link. Mike from Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. You can find me here on YouTube at Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. Same on Gunstreamer and Full 30. Facebook and Instagram, it's Budget Guns and Gear. Twitter as well. As far as what I got coming, well, I still got to edit some video from that camping trip I took the other week, and I've got a review of the Winchester Wildcat 22 rifle to edit together. Got some other stuff coming. I got a review of a Glock 48 and a TLR 6 coming, and Henry's lever action 410X. So that'll be pretty cool. Kind of the big brother to the axe that I have.
Right.
Other than that, I think I might do a squirrel hunting video Friday. I don't know when that'll drop, but I might film it Friday if the weather's not shit.
There you go. Can you please promote Pickle and Mike channel tomorrow evening? Introduction to hammock camping. Oh yeah, our Gear Report. Gear Report's going to have the low hanging fruit chat over there with Pickle. I guess that they're going to have introduction to hammock camping tomorrow night. So yeah, make sure. I don't even know. I think it's 7 o'clock Central, maybe 8 Eastern, I think. But go check over the Gear Report channel. Do that for sure. Gary, what you got
hammock
coming?
Camping is the best camping, by the way. Ground dwelling sucks.
I've never done it, but I've heard they're comfortable as hell. And I have a really bad back, and if it will help my back, then I'm all for it.
Once you learn how to lay in it, they're awesome.
Yeah, I've heard that. Gary, thanks for coming on, buddy. And what do you got coming down the pipe?
I've got a video coming out this week. Also have Foul Territory on Friday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. Early bird chat, excuse me, Sunday morning, 10 Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. So anyway, check out my channel, and thanks for the invite.
You got it, bud. Clove, what you got coming? What's that? You got anything tomorrow night or Friday, or what you got going on?
Yeah, we've got studio tomorrow. There'll probably be a regular video drop Friday. I dropped the second YouTube hashtag shorts video earlier today. So still playing around with that feature and seeing what we might be able, being the guinea pig for everybody and seeing what we might be able to use that for moving forward in the future. But yes, other than I got another top 5. I did the top 5 movie handguns. Got it working on a top 5. I don't know what it's going to be, but another movie related similar to that. I'm not going to give away the farm on it yet because I'm not quite sure what it's going to be, but working on that. A lot of research and having to look for certain movie clips and stuff involved in those. Those are a lot harder videos to put together than it looks like. That's what I'm telling you. For somebody that hates editing, that's a lot tougher video to put together than just going out on the range talking and shooting a gun. But yeah, got another one of those coming. If that doesn't drop Friday, it'll probably drop Saturday or something like that. I'll get it done. But we've got studio, the Nerd Chat tomorrow night, and was actually on with G-Webs, Jared from Guns and Gadgets, a couple other people that were in the 2A patch batch this year earlier, just in a private chat. We were kind of talking, and we were kind of talking about the revenue, the money side of being a YouTube creator, that type of thing, a gun tuber, influencer, whatever you want to call it. So it's been a while since we've talked about that. And I know we've got a lot of new folks firing up the camera and reaching monetization level on YouTube and a lot of other things. So we may talk money tomorrow night.
Right on. Rich White was saying that both Kennedy and Lincoln had vice presidents. Last name was Johnson. Ironically, Lincoln's secretary's last name was Kennedy, and Kennedy's secretary's last name was Lincoln.
Well, also, Harvey and Booth had the same number of letters in their name. Booth shot Lincoln in a theater, and then ran to a warehouse. Oswald shot Kennedy in a warehouse and ran to a theater and was caught in a theater. Yeah. There's a lot of weird.
Oh yeah, and I love that stuff. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I love the coincidences of.
There's a lot of weirdness with that. Yeah.
Yeah, they were saying. I think there was something on. Maybe it was a History Channel I was watching yesterday at work. But there's something, maybe a show coming up or whatever, talking about did Booth fake his death in the barn?
Mm-hmm.
And so that'll be interesting. It is what it is. But
yeah.
Yeah, go check out Patriot of the Dark as well, and use hashtag Patriot1776 Project. Patriot of the Dark. He like I said, he is he's got a project out there that just started. I mean, last week he put it out there, but yeah, go check that one out as well. Go check out Gary. Go check out Budget. Go check out Clover. Go check out.
I said,
Oh, okay. Yeah, go check out Rich White and Unloaded Media's chat. Go check out Obnoxious. He was out there. 7 G23, Midnight Range TM. I'm trying to think guys that are out there that they're putting out content.
Pretty much anybody out there. That's what's awesome.
Pretty much everybody out there.
Yeah. You can take your pick at any of these live chats, folks. And I mean, if you see a name out there, look it up and see if it's a channel. Odds are it probably is, because there's a lot of people turning the cameras on, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, Rob out there, New York Outcasts, he's out there, and he was saying it was great seeing it live. He was covered in oil and CLP, but couldn't chat. But thanks for being out there. Yeah, it's great, and thanks for going out there. Thanks for being part of this. Like I said, I thought this would be a lot more fun. If I'm going to watch this shit show, then I might as well watch it with friends and have some great discussion with it. So thanks for watching with me, and remember, get out and vote. Vote, not just presidential. You've got to think that it's also local, county, from your alderman all the way to the president. You've got an election to worry about this year. So get out there and vote. Don't bitch and complain if you don't vote. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you soon. Super Fidelis.